The Bronny James saga has taken many twists and turns, and it's one of the biggest phenomenons in sports history, as a guy like Bronny, who's a terrible NBA player, is being treated like a first-round pick and one of the best players of his draft class. Now, the biggest storyline surrounding Bronny isn't his play and production on the court, which of course is abysmal. The biggest story is the coverage around him concerning his dad LeBron James, Rich Paul, and the Lakers organization. As right now it's fairly obvious to everyone who has at least 2 brain cells, Bronny James was drafted purely because of his last name and his father. And saying that doesn't make you a hater, it's not a crime to admit the plain truth everyone can see. If this guy's name was Clarence Ingram or James Donald, he wouldn't be sniffing the NBA, let alone a roster spot on the Lakers.
Welcome to Hoochie Burger. May I take your order, please?
The fact a statement like that is deemed as controversial for a player like Bronny just shows how far gone some NBA fans are concerning Bronny and his father. As looking at the media, coaches, guys who are analysts and insiders, they refuse to acknowledge that very simple truth.
I don't want to hear these charges, people talking about nepotism.
You can't handle the truth.
With Bronny, I want to clarify one thing you just said, which is Rob and I did not give Bronny anything. Bronny has earned this.
You serious?
What we've seen in Bronny James is the biggest scam, the biggest hustle in league history. And for Rich Paul, I actually applaud you. You got Bronny James, a terrible NBA player, a multi-year contract with guaranteed money. As much as you may hate Rich Paul, despise him getting Bronny James a 4-year contract, as bad as he is, that's one of the greatest heists in the history of sports. Now, when it comes to criticism of Bronny James, the majority of it, it's online from fans like myself. The mainstream media, NBA players, NBA coaches, they refuse to speak out on Bronny James. Now, one guy who sort of did was Jaylen Brown. As in an unscripted, candid moment where you know he's on camera, he said 2 very telling things about Bronny. The first one being Bronny isn't ready for the pros, and secondly, he should go to the G League, but probably won't because of his last name. Jaylen Brown right there with the cameras rolling, him not knowing it, he told the cold hard truth about Bronny James. And look, a lot of people don't speak out about Bronny, his father, or Clutch Sports, they don't want the backlash. Is that fear, cowardice? I guess you could say it is. But everyone knows, from Jaylen to the coaches, to myself and you, Bronny James is the last guy who quote-unquote earned this. The entire Bronny James gimmick, it is really tiring. You see this guy score 2 points, 20% shooting, you're not allowed to say anything negative. Whether it's on camera, off camera, on the record, off the record, it is forbidden to critique Bronny James. And why is that? Because Bronny James is an extension of his father, LeBron James. And his fans, media sycophants, can't separate those 2 guys from each other. LeBron James is Bronny, Bronny is LeBron. And they'll defend Bronny shooting 25% from the floor solely because he's LeBron's son. And looking back at Jaylen Brown, he issued a so-called apology for his comments about Bronny James. And here's the tweet. It's a flex to have your son alongside in the NBA. It reflects greatness and longevity. Bronny has all the tools around to be successful. I look forward to watching his growth. Now, that so-called apology, it's kind of odd. Because first off, Jaylen Brown's comments about Bronny in the first place, he wasn't wrong about Bronny, he wasn't taken out of context, none of that happened. Jaylen Brown spoke the truth and still had to apologize. Now ask yourself, who was he actually apologizing to? Was it Bronny or LeBron James? Look at that first line. It is a flex to have your son in the NBA and reflects on you, your greatness and longevity. That right there is more about LeBron James than Bronny. and it confirms a lot of our suspicions. Bronny James for LeBron is a flex on his legacy and a reflection on LeBron. And that right there is the biggest problem. Bronny James in essence is a sideshow and a purse puppy for LeBron James. And those two finally playing together on the court as NBA players, I mean, it could have been special and genuine. But this entire PR disaster, forcing it so hard, made it inauthentic and just downright phony. And the biggest crime in all this is that Bronny James, who could have been a great player in college, a good NBA player, making it on his own, actually earning it, has been robbed from him via LeBron James and Clutch Sports. If Bronny plays with LeBron this season, what's the narrative going to be? Well, that's cool, but Bronny is there because of his dad and him wanting on the team. And that right there is unfair to Bronny James. Is he a bad player? Yes, he is. But again, he's being used by Clutch Sports and LeBron to flex his own legacy. Now, looking back at Bronny's play on the court, again, the media hype, the media coverage, it can only do so much for a player and their rep. And so far, Bronny's play on the court, in ratio to media coverage, media hype, it's at like 0.5 to 1,000. This guy's play on the court has been abysmal. And it's not like he's getting 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. He's playing 25, 26, even 30 minutes per game, and still crapping the bed. As so far in the Summer League, 4 points per game, 3 boards, almost 2 assists on 22% shooting. If that was any player in the Summer League for an extended period, they're getting benched in an instant. But for Bronny James, still starting and playing 25 minutes per game for their team. And look, having sympathy for Bronny James being forced in this scenario, it really only goes so far. This guy isn't 10 years old, 12 years old. He's not being pushed to do things he doesn't have a choice he wants to do. This guy, Bronny James, is delusional enough to think he was an NBA player after 1 year in college where he stunk it up. Bronny James in this scenario has blame to bear. But looking at LeBron James, this guy's the biggest culprit in his entire circus. As we know since day one, getting Bronny in the NBA was a massive stroke of his ego. And looking at that Jaylen Brown apology, once again, the veil slips. NBA players, coaches know this. Bronny James going to the NBA was always about LeBron James. And if Bronny was actually good in the NBA, a productive player for the Lakers, here's how it would have gone. LeBron James ends his career in LA with his son, rides off into the sunset. That's his last dance moment, his Jordan hitting the shot on Utah, playing with his son, then retiring. Documentary closes, fades to black. That's what LeBron James wanted for his manufactured career with Bronny. Unfortunately for LeBron James, like many things, he wanted it so bad, pushed it prematurely, and went over the line with hijacking his son's career. And that right there is the cold hard truth.